Hey, this is Lance of 20 Saturday Night.
And I'm Evan.
And today we're going over part 2 of the Starfinder Character Operations Manual from Paizo Games. It's a real steal of a book. You can pick it up for like $10 online at Paizo's website, or you can pick up your physical copy from Haster Games on State Street, or your local gaming store. It has a whole bunch packed in. If you want to check out part 1, we covered the new race options and new classes
and
that were
themes.
Yeah, and themes. There's a lot in part 1 that I recommend checking out. We broke it up into 2 videos because there's a whole bunch, and it would really be an injustice to how good this book is to try to mash everything up into this one. Here we're going to be going over feats, equipment, different spells that are in here, and a whole lot more.
So what's really cool about the Character Operations Manual is that they didn't just add new classes, they also remembered about the other existing classes they had in the book. The new class features start on page 68. They're new little bits and bops that you can do for your other characters. One class option that I really liked was the Technomancer's Cash Augmentation. What it does is that level 1 you get either a Cybernetic or a Magitech Augmentation, and it's based on whatever your Technomancer class level is, and it does grow by whatever Technomancer level you are. So let's say you're level 1, you're going to have a really low level augmentation, but it does progress as you level up. So let's say by the time you're level 6, you can choose to have your Magitech Augmentation instead of being something like Morphic Skin, which is level 1 augmentation. You can get something like X legs, so you get like crab walking ability, so you're hard to push over. And when you do level up, you can switch around just to show like, yeah, you're like a magic wizard. But also what's really neat is that it doesn't take up the slot. So even if you take something like X legs, you can also get something else like I don't know, the chameleon feet thing, so you can like walk on stuff. Or you have something in your throat so you can like scream loud. You can also get the dragon gland thing so you can breathe fire.
Oh, so you don't have to worry about only picking one thing for that slot, which is pretty cool because there are a few different abilities or a few different augments that are cool, but it also, you don't want to ruin that, like how you can have the holographic eyes to project an image, but you also don't want to not have the laser vision to be like Superman. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. My favorite one would have to do with the Mystic. The other, well, now there's 3 magic classes, but the other of the original magic classes in the game, there's 2 things that really stood out to me. One is the Wrecking Fists ability that Mystics get, where you can sack out a spell slot, and per each spell level, you add 2d6 onto the damage that you do, which is cool. It adds like sort of a smite into the game. It is a little bit risky because if you miss, you still sack out, well, you still lose that spell slot. So it can be kind of hit and miss, but I guess they never miss, huh? The other thing I like in there is the Warmonger ability. Well, not an ability, but subclass for the Mystic. It's really cool. It adds War Clerics into the game, which I like War Clerics. They're my favorite class.
Yeah,
so I like them a lot.
It's really fun when you have a player being a War Cleric and they become way too overpowered and they kill T-Rexes by themselves, and the rest, it's like Dragon Ball Z, everyone's like, oh man, let's wait for Goku to get here.
Yeah, they're the best class. I like them a lot. But they're super cool because they get a lot of cool abilities. One of them that they get, like at their earliest ability they get, is Summon Reinforcements, where you can conjure up, whether it be extraplanar or what have you, beings to fight for your side. The Soup ability is also really cool. I know that you and I were talking about this a bit ago, and you were really focused on that it only gets a +1. It doesn't really increase too much with it. Even though it does add a few more things onto there. Well, along with that, you get certain resistances to damage types. You get like a different travel speed options, like a burrow or a fly or swim speed or anything like that you can choose. So it adds a whole lot to it. And with that +1 that it gives you, sure, it's only a +1, but if you are picking a more martial Mystic anyway, you're probably going to get better armor and probably going to go into, like, I don't know, heavy armor feats, or especially, well, heavy armor feats, or even powered armored feat or anything to keep up with the soldier anyway. So it's not really that much of an issue for me, at least. But I'm super glad they gave the Mystic a way to seem more, heavy and not just a very none of that LV match.
I'm a spellcaster that's not a Technomancer.
Yeah. They really do a good job of not ignoring their existing class, even though they have 3 pretty cool ones in the thing already. The new archetypes that start on page 96 of this book, they're really cool. They do expand a lot on the archetypes in the core rulebook on page on page 126 in there. There's a lot of them, and each of them they do take a step further in making sure that no two characters or even two characters of the same class have to really even be the same. That's a huge thing that Starfinder does. If they do a really good job of executing pretty well, I think at least. If you think I'm wrong, you're wrong. One of them, my favorite one, is the medic, and it does a good job of being able to be a healer and a support character for your group without having to be magic. It allows you to keep the science in your science fiction role-playing game. It has 3 or 4 main things. One of them, it can help to decrease the severity, or at least the time that somebody's afflicted with diseases and other ill effects. Another one is it can heal stamina points, which is pretty big, just because a lot of healing, it only goes towards hit points first, or hit points at all. With this one, healing stamina, that thing that drops out first, it's really good to get those sort of temporary hit points, to however you want to think of them as. And then it can also help to bring characters back from the dead, meeting certain circumstances. They do a good job to make sure it doesn't just look like you're basically doing magic with technology. They separate them, and with the medic, it does also a really good job of keeping you a viable support character. I like medic as well, just because you could be like a bones of a party, or Dr. Zoidberg, or what have you. It all keeps like to very specific themes as well. I think you like the Battle Flower, right?
Yeah, Battle Flower is... Well, it's Battle Flower. It's kind of like a weird thing where it's like, ooh, you're like a super graceful dancer, and everything you do is super, like, you're super fluid and agile. But also you get to do things like you can make an acrobatics check, instead of rolling for diplomacy to change the opinion of someone. Especially, they say, like, oh, it's especially good if you don't speak the same language, because, dance is whatever, so, but...
Dance is fluid, man.
Yeah, but basically it's kind of like saying, hey, so these guys don't like us because we did kind of screw them over, and one guy's like, don't worry, I got this, and starts howarding the alien really hard, and then, like, the orc who doesn't speak, and he doesn't speak English, he's like, all right, you're cool in my book. Later on, they can, as a move action, they can get, they can use a take 20, for like an acrobatics check, which is pretty cool. I like that. And what's also nice is I think they realize how weird it is. So unlike most archetypes where it's like, hey, so if archetype says a level 2, you get this, screw whatever your class says. For this saying, hey, so you don't gotta do this if you don't want. You can, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things with archetypes in the game, basically is a new class, like it's a new subset onto your class. So whenever you would gain an ability of that tier, you would just swap out whatever is either at that level or pretty close to it, where you'd be able to tell this is what's supposed to get here. But this one, it does allow you to
you can say, yeah, I don't want this because this is like a big class thing, like learning your spell feature or something like that.
Yeah, so I'm glad that they also put that in here. Again, this book, it does cover a lot of things that were weird about the core rulebook, that it plugs those holes pretty well.
So, like we mentioned before, there are new feats in this book. They start on page 110, and while going through this list just to make this video, there was a lot of times where I saw the feats and I just had like a what the fuck moment, just because it was so out there and so funny that it just grabs your attention. One example is the Deadly Boast feat, where you spend your full action to basically hype up something you're going to do on your next turn, or something your ally who's going after you was going to do. And if you make this bluff check, every enemy that you can choose in a 60-foot range is going to be kind of scared of what you're going to do. So like, this guy with this gun, he's going to mess you up with this gun. It's going to be so bad.
So you basically have like a hype man, like Killer Mike, or just like...
Yeah, you just like, okay! Kind of like that. And
that's a little John, how dare you?
Yeah, the littlest of Johns.
Yeah, he's like an inch tall.
Yeah.
Other blocks, don't hurt me.
One other thing I really liked was percussive maintenance, which any of you who are good with your hands know it means hitting something until it works, which is exactly what the feat does. Is it lets you re-roll a failed engineering check for you trying to repair something, or a failed engineering check you made per Starship Combat. It's because a lot of things like like a lot of things where it's sort of like a mystic sort of feat or something like that. It's like, oh, you have to have this many ranks in mysticism, or blah, blah, blah. But for percussive maintenance, you just need to have a strength of 11, which is slightly more than average, so it's just like... work.
So it's like if your Xbox doesn't work or your computer's being weird and sometimes you just kind of hit it and it does what it's told. That's basically what this is.
Yeah, or like those stormtroopers when they were trying to get Baby Yoda to work, they were just punching him real hard in the face.
Yeah, I don't know why they put the knuckle dusters on, but
listen,
going for it on them.
Sometimes you just gotta beat the hell out of Baby Yoda.
Yeah. A lot of the equipment in the character operations manual does have something to do within 3 new classes, but some of it is independent of those. Shields are obviously coming from the Vanguard, and it's a little bit of change from the playtest material. That was a really good idea. It was the playtest that said, if I remember right, that only the Vanguards
we're gonna get shields. But
yeah, luckily they opened that up to a few of the other classes as something that they normally just get. But I'm glad they decided to move away from that, opening up shields to a lot of the martial classes and also throwing in a feat so that anybody can have them. There are a few weird weapons like the needler pistols and the needler weapons. That's good as they did in there for the biohacker to be able to use their injection properties along with their class features to put different boons or banes onto the people, like filling somebody from ketamine out of 20 feet away, or
giving your friend ketamine.
Yeah, or giving your friend ketamine.
Yeah, because there was already some stuff for the needler injection weapons, but there's like...
It was very sparse.
Yeah, it was like... really weird to have, but besides they put some more stuff in there. Also, I do like shields because it seems weird that it's like, hey, so we're getting shot at with lasers and spells. What about like a piece of metal? That'd be pretty good. Nah, listen, that's lost technology.
Yeah, that was in the gap, but luckily this knowledge opened up to not just the Vanguards, but also the exocorsic mechanics. They know it. Solarians and soldiers, they got that going on, and also feet, so that the lost art of piece of metal isn't missed out forever. They also added a few cute things like the sister weapon to the old hand exploder, the punch gun, which is pretty cute. It reminds me of, if you guys have seen it in Inglourious Bastards, it's like that thing where like spoilers, you had to fight Hitler. Also spoilers, I'm sorry those of you who watch us, but Hitler didn't always have good ideas. Except for the Volkswagen, it's a pretty good car. But they did some cool things where it's like you punch somebody and then it shoots them. It's silly to look at, but it's whimsical. I like it. But the equipment that's in here, it starts on page 120, and there's a lot of it in here. It's really cool they did add it in. They have like 3 different types of shields. They have things like called capture poles, which are like those big, like sort of grippler arms, like on a big pole, and it works well for the biohacker because when like you have it at the end, it has syringes at the end that fill somebody up with like, I don't know, horse tranquilizers or what have you, and they're cute. They're really cool. I like them a lot.
So spells can be found on page 130 of the Character Operations Manual. It's really nice that they did add a few more spells for like Mystics and Technomancers, but also that they added a whole new list of spells for the Witch Warper. There's a few spells here and there that the Witch Warper does share between the other 2 spellcasters, but for the most part, it is a completely new spell list. One of the spells that I did like for the Mystic was the Haunted Armor spell, where basically you rip like a bad soul from like the River of Styx and you throw it into someone's armor, and it makes it so they're slower because they've got a ghost in it, and it screams so it's harder for them to hide, and because it's haunted, it's not as effective because, yeah, it's basic ghost lore. If you throw a ghost into something, it's not going to be as cool. For the Technomancer, they do have a spell called Create Ammunition, where for however long the spell lasts, you do get a create ammunition, and it comes in basically the box that you find in like the Starfinder Cool Rulebook or the Armory if it's the type of ammunition that's not there. The only limitation is that it can't be like a missile or a rocket, so basically no high explosives. But you can also do things like you can make a battery, since that can be used to power like a laser gun, but also it can be used to do things like if your comm unit's dead, you can plug that in there, which is kind of nice that it does go over that, because they know that players are like, well, if it's a battery, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, they do a good job of addressing a lot of those one-off questions. I'm assuming with the sufficient playtest material and playtest run-throughs and whatnot, that's sort of where they got that from. Mm-hmm. Also, along with these along with the Witch Warper sharing spells between the Technomancer and the Mystic, don't worry, they already did, the Mystic and Technomancer, they already share spells in the core rulebook, so it's not like they're leaning too heavily on those existing classes. It is a good standalone class for being itself.
Yeah, and speaking of Witch Warper spells, one that I really like is Parallel Format. Unlike most really watered down and lame illusion spells where it's like, if I wanted to make Lance look like Lance's OC, Lance the Hedgehog, but if I went like this...
Whoa, hang on. So instead of like, I'm going to make a parallel universe where Lance is less fat, or fix that bald spot in his head or anything, it's Lance the Hedgehog, a Sonic OC.
Yeah. Yeah, but instead of like the illusion spell, it's like, okay, it looks like he only has hedgehog spines. If I use that, it would pull different parts of the universe where in a different universe, Lance is an OC Sonic character, and he would have spines and maybe be able to spin dash. Also, if you're bored, look up Lance the Hedgehog.
No! So downtime activities, they said on page 150, and I'm super excited they put these in. It's something that I've been pulling off of other books just to have some sort of rubric to go off of. There are a lot of downtime activities in here, which is fantastic. Some of them are only temporary beneficial, some of them are more long-term, like refitting your starship is something long-term where you can improve, it still costs build points, but you can improve like a certain quarters or what have you, and there are other ones where you can sort of coordinate with your group or work out to give yourself a temporary benefit for later on. I love the downtime activities because they help the players and GMs, one, to get those nice bonuses, which is always mechanically good, but then also to show the different passes of time, where it's like if you say, okay, since the last adventure or the last time you guys were murder hoboing or space pirating or what have you, a week or a month has passed, what have you guys been doing during that time? Sitting in the dark waiting for you to say something else happens. And this way it's like, no, I've been training for this time, or I've been investigating some rumors about somebody, or it really helps out to stop as much murder hoboing as possible, just so that your players don't get into the mindset that all they know is fight.
My coin.
So that's all life is to you? Monsters and money.
Fight, get paid, drink, buy bigger gun.
Yeah, your Star Wars isn't just a robot whose name is Fight. Instead, it's like, okay, also in my time of between activities, I'm really invested into my starship, and I want to, help to be a good crew member with that, or what have you. I love that they put these in. It also makes it also gives the characters an opportunity to increase their role-playing and out-of-combat stuff as well by making them a more well-rounded character with hobbies or what they do in their downtime activities. So like how we had in our actual play, which is still up and still horrible because I'm running it, how we had Dylan's character, who was like a video game player. Boy online. I don't know what asshole would be that online, but anyway, who was like a video game star or whatever. And so it would have been really cool for him to have this downtime activity. One of them is, I think, playing video games or what have you. So like that he can get like some sort of following. If you don't like the downtime activities that are mentioned in this book, one, you're wrong. It's like Hitler. And then also, you can use these as a rubric in order to just make your own downtime activities. But Paizo did a bang-up job with these in here. I love them.
So Starship Combat starts on page 146. It covers new Starship Combat roles and also new things like open actions and minor actions, but we'll go over those in a bit. The first new crew action is the Chief Mate. It's a little bit like the Engineer, but while the Engineer, they're better at things like fixing things, and maybe if there's something like there's a core overload or there's too much power going somewhere, they'll try to vent something and type a bunch of stuff. What a Chief Mate is going to do, they're going to avoid the fuck out of the warranty, and then what they'll do is they'll open a wall panel and they'll rip the cable in half and rip another cable in half and push together kind of like this, and then so it's like, okay, power's going somewhere else.
Sort of like what you always see R2-D2 doing.
Kind of, yeah, where you're sort of moving things around.
Yeah, we're doing that weird wheel thing.
An example of a Chief Mate ability would be their hard turn ability. If they successfully pull it off, it allows the pilot to turn as if they had one level higher of maneuverability by manually hacking or overriding the thruster safety control. So maybe it's something where it was put in there because if you turned this way, it's going to eventually burn the ship, and it's like, well, we're going to burn the paint job, but it's better than the whole ship exploding, so bam, one extra wide turn. The other new Starship Combat role is the Magic Officer. It really allows the like a Mystic or a Witch Warper or like a Technomancer to really shine if they're not good at other things. One example of this is in our Starship Combat times that we did that in our Let's Play. We had my guy who was a Mystic Baylor who they had him in the captain seat because it's like, well, I mean, his charisma is kind of high-ish and it's nothing else really translates, so yeah, you can be doing that. But for this, it allows them to do, really push like match the ship and use their magic. Also, as an aside, if you have an arcane laboratory already set up on this ship, if you do any magic officer rolls, you are going to get a +2 to any sort of mysticism rolls or anything like that done. One of the things they can do is they can actually scry, and it's like the science officer's scan ability, but instead of doing some science stuff like, oh, we gotta look at the tachyon fields and something whatever from Voyager, they do something where they'll cut a line where it has some space goo in it, and they'll put in some of the like knuckle bones they use for telling the future, and they'll throw it on the ground and say, oh, well, obviously he's there. Or maybe if they're like a more religious spellcaster to get their power from the gods, they just sort of they look at the readout and they're like, Jesus, take the wheel. And then the Lord shows them what they need to do what they need to do.
So it can help transition your game from a Star Trek style of game into a Star Wars style game where it's either crystals or the Force or shut up.
Or Baby Yodas.
Yeah, or Baby Yoda. The open crew actions are more miscellaneous activities anybody on the ship can do. So somebody else can assist the gunner, say if negotiations are turning sour. Somebody else can do something like help them out to, say, ready the weapon system so that if things are looking bad, they can fire and they can deal more damage on that opening salvo. Other things like minor crew actions can be taken pretty much by anybody, and they're good if you need an action to happen in a pinch. Like say you just are in a one-person ship and you don't have a science officer, it's just you and you.
Yeah.
You can do things like, say, a visual identification where it sort of works similar to the science officer scan ability, where you can make out certain details of the ship, whether that be find basic information like make and model or count the guns or what have you.
Yeah, it's kind of like, instead of the science officer scan, it's kind of like when you're texting and driving where you kind of have to switch between both.
Which, by the way, don't text and drive.
Or do it. I'm not your dad.
Yeah, die for us.
But what's really nice, like you're saying, it's good for if you're in a pinch or if you're doing something and let's say you have a gunner who just doesn't show up a lot. What's nice is that anyone can take a minor crew action. It doesn't take their action that they would do. Just because it's something that it's really minor, something you can do kind of fast, again, like texting and driving. But also, the only other thing is there can't be anyone doing anything in that role. So, for example, if you're doing something for like the visual identification, there can't be anyone doing science or officer stuff.
Yeah, just so there's not too many actions that are stacking up at one time. This game does keep a lot of things balanced. Again, it's probably because I had that playtest. Mm-hmm. Things kept getting weird. But there's a whole lot in this book. Normally, when somebody says what books should I get if I'm going to be running my first game of Starfinder, I typically go with the core rulebook and an Alien Archive, one of the three. But this one's up there where it's even, I want to say I would get it before the Armory or the Path Worlds book if you're looking to run your game, because there's so much in here that fills in whatever holes that were missing in the core rulebook, and it also expands on a lot of them and gives a whole bunch more options. You guys did a good job with this one. I didn't do a good job with that sentence. Does that cover about the character operations manual for you?
Yeah, that covers it for me.
Well, thanks again for watching 20-Sided Night. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and bye for now.
Hey you rascals, thank you for watching our video. Click here to subscribe, click here to watch one of our newer videos, and click here if you feel like watching something random. Have a good day.
But it was I, Dio!